it's Professor Gould, and in this section we're going to talk about how cells use energy. We're going to come back later and talk about exactly where all this energy comes from, but right now we're going to assume cells got some energy. We're going to talk about what they do with it. First of all, what do we mean by energy? I know it seems like a simple concept. Energy is defined as the capacity to cause change. So anytime something changes shape or moves either across a membrane or within a cell, that is going to be done by energy. It's going to require energy to do that. Just like every time that you move your body, that requires energy. That's going to be a lot of energy happening in all of your cells. Now, we do have a physical property that we need to talk about, and that is conservation of energy. Within the universe, energy is not created or destroyed. It changes form. So we're not going to say that cells create energy. We're going to say that they create a form of energy that they use. And they're going to do that by transforming energy from another form. What does that mean? Hang on, I'm going to explain it all. All right, so we have two main forms of energy that are going to be important in biology. One is kinetic energy, which is literally the energy of things that are in motion. So if you think of physical objects in motion, like a rock falling off a cliff or rolling down a hill, that rock in motion has more energy than a rock staying still or not moving as fast. If that rock hits something else, it's going to transfer some of that energy, some of that kinetic energy, into the thing it hits. Molecules also have kinetic energy. Remember that the electrons in atoms are always whizzing around, and so that motion is a form of kinetic energy. Heat is kinetic energy contained in the motion of atoms and molecules. More heat means that the atoms and molecules move more. Now, potential energy is the energy that an object has stored up, either because of its location, if it's on a cliff or at the top of a hill. It's being pulled on by gravity, and that pull of gravity can be transformed into kinetic energy when it starts to roll or fall off the cliff. Or potential energy could be stored in the structure of something. So this is what's going to be important in biology. We are going to store energy in chemical bonds. Okay. Now you can also store potential energy in a compressed spring or in a rubber band. There's a bunch of different ways. We're going to focus on chemical bonds, and specifically the chemical bonds that living things use for energy by breaking chemical bonds, releasing energy, and transforming that potential or stored energy into kinetic energy. Okay? Now, all energy conversions generate heat. Anytime you make a bond, which would be storing energy, or break a bond, which is releasing energy, they're going to release heat. Breaking a bond is going to release more heat. Okay? That's going to be important as well. All right. Chemical energy is stored in the bonds between atoms. So chemical energy is a form of stored or potential energy. Creating those bonds is going to absorb energy, and it requires energy, and that energy is going to be stored in the bond, and then when we break that bond, we release the energy. This is a very important principle. You really, really need to know this one. Creating bonds uses energy and stores some of that energy. Breaking bonds releases that energy. So one common form that for a lot of people this is easier to think of, gasoline. Octane is an 8-carbon molecule that's in gasoline. Combine that with oxygen, it releases heat and creates a lot of kinetic energy that can be transferred into moving a car. You end up with carbon dioxide and water as the waste products. Now, gasolines also have other chemicals in them that create other waste products that make things like smog. But this is the basic chemical equation that causes your car to move. The chemical bonds in the gasoline rearrange themselves, in the presence of oxygen, release energy, and then create carbon dioxide and water. The same thing is actually going to be happening inside your cells. Most of your cells are going to use glucose, which is a sugar. This glucose from food combines with oxygen. The chemical bonds rearrange, heat is released, and energy is released. First, it is going to be stored in a molecule of ATP. We're going to come back to that molecule in the next section. And then again in ATP is going to break a bond that is then going to be used to move things within the cell. So, and again, it releases carbon dioxide and water, which is why you breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Okay? All right, now, chemical energy is in all of our food, and that's what a calorie is. A calorie is a measure of the amount of energy in food. Now, there are two kinds of calories because, yeah, I don't know. One calorie, lowercase c, is a chemical definition that is the amount of energy that it takes to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degrees centigrade. Okay, that's the definition of a calorie. Now, calorie with a capital C, the ones that you see on food labels, are actually kilocalories, lowercase c. So it's actually 1 capital C calorie can raise a kilogram of water by 1 degree centigrade. Or, to put it a different way, 5 calories is enough energy to increase the temperature of 5 kilograms of water by 5 degrees centigrade. Okay? Or 5 kilograms of water, 1 degree centigrade. So when you look at the calories in food, what you are looking at is actually the amount of energy stored in the chemical bonds in that food. So some foods, spaghetti, baked potatoes, fried chicken, cheeseburgers, have a lot more energy in them than other foods of the same essential volume. So a cup of spaghetti has 241 calories. Remember, these are kilocalories, whereas a cup of broccoli only has 25. So you're going to get more energy out of the spaghetti. But remember that you also need the minerals in the broccoli. Okay? Different activities release different amounts of calories. And there is a certain math to, if you eat too much and don't use enough of that energy, then your body will store that energy in the form of fat. It's way more complicated than that. Remember, in biology, it's always more complicated. Some people's bodies actually use more energy than other people's, even when they're just sitting around. Some people are genetically predisposed to store energy as fat. There's a lot of differences. Not all calories are the same. Your body will absorb fewer of the calories from broccoli than from the spaghetti. There's a lot going on, but there is something to be said for the basic math of if you eat less, then your body is not going to have energy to store. Okay? So that's the basic idea of stored energy in food. In the next section, we're going to talk about this molecule ATP that powers what the cells do.